Welcome to our Shadow to Freedom series.
Have you ever felt like you are your own worst enemy? Seriously, you know exactly what you need to do to hit a goal. Maybe it's with your money, your health, whatever, but you just find yourself doing the complete opposite. It's this incredibly frustrating feeling, right? Like you're hitting some kind of invisible wall, sabotaging yourself, and you don't even know why. Well, let's get into this, because what if that wall isn't really a personal failure? What if it's just an old, outdated program running in the background of your mind? So there's this powerful story from a freedom coach, Peter Crone. He talks about a man who was really struggling with anger. Now, this guy was a good man. He loved his family, but he just kept lashing out. And after one really bad blow up at his son, he looked at him just full of shame and said those words, "I hope you don't grow up to be like me." I mean, can you just imagine the pain in that moment? The feeling of being completely trapped by a behavior you despise and then fearing you're going to pass it on to the people you love the most? And look, that father's story, it isn't just his story, is it? It taps into this huge, universal question that so many of us wrestle with. Why do we get stuck in these loops? Why do we make choices that seem to push away success or love or financial stability? I mean, we're supposed to be logical, capable adults, but so often we feel like we're being controlled by these forces that are totally alien to us. The answer, it turns out, has nothing to do with willpower or just trying harder. It's about understanding a glitch in our own operating system. Okay, so here's the part that's really a game changer. The core idea here is that these patterns, they are not your fault. Let me just say that again because it's important. It is not your fault. These self-sabotaging behaviors are not character flaws. They're actually deeply ingrained survival programs that got installed a long, long time ago, and they're still running on autopilot, often completely without our permission. It's a glitch, not a personal failing. The physician Gabor Mate actually gives this glitch a name. He calls it the Physio-Emotional Time Warp, and it perfectly describes what's going on. Something happens in your adult life today, a comment from your boss, a bill that shows up, and it triggers a response. But the one responding isn't the capable adult you are right now. No, it's a much younger version of you, reacting with the exact same fear and helplessness they felt in some situation from way back when, a situation you might not even consciously remember. And there's this really beautiful way to reframe these patterns from the psychologist Bill Plotkin. Think of them not as your enemies, but as loyal soldiers. They are old defense mechanisms that your mind created to protect you when you were young and totally vulnerable. And you know what? They did their job brilliantly. The only problem is, the war is over. You are not that helpless child anymore. But these soldiers, they're still on high alert. They're still fighting. And now their protective actions are just causing a whole lot of collateral damage in your adult life. Okay, so let's take this whole idea and aim it at a very specific, and let's be honest, often very charged area of our lives, our finances. For so many of us, money is where these loyal soldiers show up in full force. It becomes this battlefield of stress and confusion and behaviors that make absolutely no sense. And this isn't an accident. It's the work of what's known as a money complex. So what on earth is a money complex? Well, it's basically a hidden automatic response that gets triggered around anything to do with finances. And the key words there are hidden and habitual. It just pulls you into this vortex of reactivity. It's not a calm, rational decision. It's an emotional tidal wave, right? It carries these intense feelings and leads to compulsive behaviors, whether that's overspending or hoarding every penny or just completely avoiding looking at your bank account. And these complexes, they tend to show up in a few common flavors. A fear complex? That could come from a childhood where money was always tight, so now as an adult, you hoard it, even if you have more than enough. Greed can come from feeling like you always had to compete for attention, creating this constant need for more, more, more. Anger can flare up in those bitter family fights over money. And pride. Well, pride can tie your entire identity to your net worth, so any financial setback feels like your whole world is collapsing. And this just shows you how disconnected these complexes are from our actual reality. Get this, there's a story of a businessman in Denver. The guy was a multimillionaire, totally secure by any objective measure, and yet he lived in a constant state of anxiety about money. Why? Because he grew up in a really chaotic, alcoholic home where he never, ever felt safe. His adult bank account couldn't touch his childhood programming. He was stuck in that physio-emotional time warp where money equals a feeling of security he never actually had. So the big question is, where does this programming even come from? Well, the root of it lies in this fundamental conflict that all of us had to navigate as kids, a trade-off between two of our most essential primal human needs: As Gabor Mate breaks it down, these are the two core needs. On one side, you've got attachment. This is our primal, non-negotiable need to connect with our caregivers. It's about safety, belonging, literally survival. On the other side, you've got authenticity, the need to know and honor our real gut feelings, to be our true selves. And both of these are absolutely vital for a healthy person to develop. But here's the impossible dilemma. What happens when these two critical needs slam into each other? What if expressing your authentic feelings, your anger, your joy, your sadness, what if that threatens the attachment bond with the very people you need to stay alive? What if just being yourself makes your parents anxious or angry or makes them pull away? For a little kid, this isn't even really a choice. The outcome is totally predetermined. Survival has to come first. So when a child is faced with that choice, stay connected to mom and dad or be true to my feelings, they will unconsciously sacrifice their authenticity. Every single time. They'll learn to stuff down their emotions, disconnect from their own gut, and twist their personality into whatever it needs to be to maintain that life-giving connection.
And it is so important to see this with compassion. This trade-off is not a failure. It's not some kind of flaw in you. It was a brilliant and absolutely necessary survival strategy that got you through your childhood. The part of you that learned to be a people pleaser or to be quiet or to perform, that part of you was a genius. It made sure you got the care you needed to survive. The only problem is that strategy is still running long after its expiration date.
So, how do we update the software? How do we finally convince those loyal soldiers that the war is over? Well, this is where we get to shift from just understanding the problem to actively rewriting that old code. And it all starts with reclaiming what the author John Bradshaw calls our adult potency. Adult potency is just this deep recognition that you are no longer a dependent child. You have an inner strength now that you simply didn't have back then. It's the power to act as your own parent, to nurture that inner self, and, this is the crucial part, to give yourself permission to consciously disobey those old unhealthy rules and beliefs without that terrifying primal fear of abandonment that drove all your choices as a kid. And building this potency is an active process. First, you've got to acknowledge your power. I mean, literally, make a list of all the things you can do now as an adult that were impossible as a child. You can leave a room, you can drive a car, you earn your own money, you choose your own friends. Second, grant yourself permission. Affirm that you have the right to feel your feelings, the right to express them safely, and the right to change your mind. And third, consciously step into the role of your own protector. Start building trust that the adult you is fully capable of keeping you safe now.
All right, so as we start building up this adult potency, there's one last, really subtle trap we have to watch out for. After we sacrificed our true selves for attachment, a lot of us built a new identity to cope. We became the good one, the smart one, the helper, the rebel. We became, in our own way, extraordinary as a way to earn our keep.
And you can really see the shift here. On one side, you have that old identity, that collection of masks, the healer, the different one, all designed to prove our worth. But on the other side, the new identity that's trying to emerge, it's not about performance. It's about integration. It's about being practical and purposeful. It's about being able to receive help from others without feeling weak. It's the profound and deeply relaxing realization that you are already enough right now without having to be extraordinary. This quote from Peter Crone just nails it, doesn't it? It's a total paradox, but it's so true. Freedom isn't found by adding more achievements or perfecting your performance. It's found in subtraction, in letting go of the false, constructed self you thought you had to be just to survive.
And this brings us all the way back around, right back to money.
Because when you start to operate from this more authentic, potent adult self, your entire relationship with money can completely transform. It really is the final and maybe the most powerful reframe of all. At the end of the day, all of this leads to a pretty profound realization. Money itself is neutral. It's just a technology. And when we're trapped in our old programming run by those loyal soldiers of fear or anger or pride, we use that technology as a tool for separation. We use it to build walls, to prove we're better, to control things. But when we heal, when we step into our own adult potency and authenticity, money can become a vehicle for connection. It becomes a tool to build community, to express our deepest values, and to create a sense of security that's actually real. So I'll leave you with this question. Just think about your life, your work, your finances. After everything we've talked about, what would change if you just let go of the need to be extraordinary? If you traded that exhausting performance of who you think you should be for the simple, grounded presence of who you actually are. If you stopped performing and started truly connecting, first with yourself and then with others, what would finally become possible for you?